Hello, Deep Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the Joy of Being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. Folks, looks like we're working with a pinhole camera over here. We got ourselves a little doggo, and we're here. Good to be here with you. Oopsus, I just knocked something, including the camera. Good girl. Trying to treat Willow just to sit there. Just nothing but sit. So welcome, folks. This is the Joy of Being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. Folks, big question for you. Where are you coming from? Where are you located? I'm in I've already told you. It's also on the screen. I'm in BK. And what else? What am I grateful for? Especially today. I want to be honest, just not make some stuff up. I could say I'm grateful for technology, but that's pretty cheesy. Well, it's fine if it's cheesy. It's just I want to really be sure. I'm like, oh, you know what I'm grateful for? IFS therapy. That is not how you spell therapy. So where are you at? What are you grateful for? Listing the things you're grateful for has been statistically proven to increase well-being, our experience of our own well-being. What are you grateful for? I think this puppy's grateful that I'm treating her just for sitting here. Yeah, what are you grateful for? What's going on? As folks begin to trickle in here, we have Daniel Ingram here from Guatemala, grateful for mineral water. Hell yeah, grateful for mineral water. Love that. You know, if you go to in Germany, they say, I think mit is without, so it's mit gas. I think that means, unless it means with. Mit probably maybe means with. From Greece, grateful for supporting family. This is from Asbin Illustration. Welcome, Asbin Illustration. Julia, welcome from Vienna. Grateful for this very thing right here. Very grateful. Scott Nesbin here from California. Welcome for lucid dreams. Very fun. I had some dreams last night, but they were not lucid. Willow down. Good. It's cool that I can watch her without looking at her. This is actually a training coup. I can usually have to like stare at her the whole time. Great. Where else? Where are you from? What are you grateful for? We're going to be meditating here on fear and deconstructing fear, working with fear. I've got to get this dog a little more light. I think I got to get her own light. I think I can use my phone for today. I did that last time. So that's what we're going to be working on. And very interesting take. I've been thinking about it from the perspective of IFS. Okay, how can I set this up so it doesn't interfere with the stream, but does light the doggo? There we go. There you go, Willie. You got your own light. That's much better, isn't it? Yeah. Just chill there. That's a good girl. Okay, we have Quantum Calmness. Good morning from Oregon. Grateful to be here. Quantum Calmness, I'm a little suspicious here. Is this your first time here? I don't remember seeing Quantum Calmness here. If that's the case, we have a very special way of greeting you. Let us know. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm just going to assume that it is, just because one of my favorite things to do is this. Welcome. Great to see you here. Quantum Calmness. Thanks for joining. Okay, so folks, we're going to be meditating here for 25 minutes. So here's the novel take. This is the novel take. I'm trying to be, we have our friend Naz who does our, exactly, welcome. We have our friend Naz here who does our time codes. So I'm trying to be as explicit as possible. So like when I'm talking about a subject, because it's hard just to figure out when the hell you're talking about a subject. Okay, so here's my novel take. In terms of relating to fear, I think for a lot of my life and a lot of my, growth, I thought of fear as first something that was invisible, and then I thought of it as sort of like a thing to be avoided, a thing for weak people. What are you doing, Willow? What are you doing? What are you doing? Willow? That's her sound. That's her training sound. Down. Yes, good girl. That's her negative command, is that she's done something wrong. It's a little buzzer sound. Okay, so I've thought of fear as something to be avoided, something to be eliminated, something to be gotten rid of. And then I think for years I had this sense of like that part of me that's afraid, it's really messing up my life. It's like, it makes me selfish and fearful and anxiety, self-centered and self-conscious and all these things. Fear is just like a poison. And I've heard people talk about it that way, that like fear is an evil demon whose goal is to keep you in the world of delusion. I heard someone once say that that's what Buddhism says. I haven't heard that since that person said that. So I like the idea. I can imagine some stage of Buddhism saying that. And so, but the point of it is, that I want to talk about fear in a very different way. I want to talk about fear in like a way that is a little bit more kind and compassionate. What I realize is that part of me that's afraid. So this is, oh wait, you know what, guys? This is exactly our last stream before my next big journey. My next journey is on Saturday, so there may not be a stream Friday. I think there's a solid chance that there's not going to be a stream Friday. So this is my prelude to this big psychedelic journey. And what I want to think about leading up to it, what I want to meditate around today, is this idea around fear. And in particular, that I typically treat the part of me that's fearful as like, get out of here, like, you're no good. But I realize that that's pretty unkind. And so what I want to do today is work on, we all have a part of us that's afraid of doing something big and outrageous, or going out in the middle of the street right now and doing a wacky dance, or, you know, like, if it's funny, because if I were like, okay, everybody, I know you were just watching this on video, but clap at home. It's like, when shows do that or things do that, it's so like cringy. But it's like, part of why I don't want to do this because it's so, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do that. That's like, it feels like embarrassing and like whatever. So there's all these different forms of fear. We're going to evoke a little of that, and then we're going to meditate with it. Not to say we should see through it and it should go away, but to actually do something similar to what we did on Monday, which is to say, of course you're afraid. That makes perfect sense. And treat it like a part of us that's valid. It's trying to warn us of something. And I realize the part of me that's afraid, it's often like to do like intense fitness, or to do like hard meditation where it's painful, or to face difficult emotions, etc. It's often afraid to do like really intensive emotional work, like do writing and stuff like that, that's really focused on like working through emotional stuff. It's often really hard for that part to do that stuff. It's afraid. Well, why? Because it hurts. So what's the point? Push through it, be like, no, just ignore. And that's often the way that I relate to it. So what we're going to do today is actually just be really kind to the part of us that feels afraid at times. So that's what the meditation is. So find a nice, comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. So little pro tip here. With the dog, there's all the stuff that I learned about recently with the dog's like body language. So her ears are tilted towards me. She's listening. Well, no, see, that's good. She turns around. She's not paying attention. She's sort of snuffling. You want to reward her when she's just resting. Like, right, oh, I missed it. So a second ago, she was just like not really paying attention, just kind of hanging out. You want to reward her for that. Willow, down. She's trying to sneak back because she knows there might be treats over there. Come here, Willow. Here. Down. Good. Good. So right now she's so paying attention to me and the down command, etc., that she is like anxious, etc., etc. And so I'm training anxiousness into her if I'm always rewarding her, like when she's looking and watching and waiting. Right now she's getting more anxious. So ideally she would calm down, but she might not because she's a puppy. Come, Willow. This might not work. She's very much a puppy, so come on, Willow. Everyone wants to meditate. Come here. Here. Down. Okay, that's a good girl. Good girl. Good meditation posture. So, good girl. Okay, so let's meditate, folks. We're going to meditate for 25 minutes. In that time, I'm going to encourage... Nope. What are you doing? You're acting very weird. Oh, I see what it is. She sees the chewy stick over here on this side, so she keeps running over. She thinks that's going to be her reward, but it's not. Her reward is just nothing at all. That's the way to train, right? You do it for your own benefit. This might not work at all. This might be a terrible idea, guys. Willow, down. Good. Good. Just hang out there, Willow. You're just going to hang out here for the whole meditation, for 25 whole minutes. Maybe you'll even fall asleep. Okay. So, folks, finding that comfortable position. This is not going to work. Guys, this is not going to work. I have to give it the stick. The stick makes a little sound in the background. Sorry about that, everybody. Here, Willow. But there's no way to manage her without this. Come on. Willow, here. Down. Good. It's going to make a little chewy noise in the background, but I'll speak up so you can turn the volume down, hear less chewy noise, but there will be a little bit of crunching in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. It gets louder at times. Okay. So, folks, let me get real close here so you don't have to hear that. And I'll go into the timer. I'm going to ask everyone to stay basically still for the duration of the sit. And then we'll go from there. So find a nice comfortable position that you can maintain. I truly hope I don't have to put the dog away. Put the dog down. Okay, come on. There's nothing for you here, Willa. Okay, find a nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. And we'll begin. Yes, good girl. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we begin a meditation, we begin with the momentum of all of the previous moments. And so as we begin to settle the mind into the basic sensations of the body breathing, the simplicity of this task will show us by contrast all of the ways the mind is pushing and pulling in different directions. In this way, the mind is like an untrained puppy, excited and interested. There's nothing wrong with that. That's nature. And if our response to it is angry or judgmental, it doesn't really work very well. It's our job to bring some stability, some calm. And we'll begin to do this by physically relaxing the body. So physically relaxing the body more than we can even physically feel. So starting at the top of the head, relax the brow, relax the muscles behind the eyes. Allow the face to go smooth. Relax the back of the tongue and let the jaw go slack. Relax the neck and the shoulders. The arms, and relaxing the hands. Letting the body breathe as it will and relaxing the torso. The lower back, lower belly, and hips. Relaxing the legs and relaxing the feet. And then relaxing the entire body as one large collective. mind will tend to want to zoom into one particular area, but physically relaxing everywhere is one large letting go. And as we let go physically, letting go mentally, letting go of the sense of needing to do something. Often in meditation we overdo dramatically. So knowing we need to do much less than we think we need to, letting that go. Perhaps even letting go of the part of us that thinks it needs to do things, what we sometimes call the self. Not terribly needed at this moment. And because we're going to be working with the part of ourselves that can often feel anxious, worried, or even fearful, we're going to try letting go physically, letting go in the body so deeply that it might even feel as though we're falling. And at first it feels like there's a physical limit to how much we can let go, but we can let go physically more than this. But part of why it feels like a bad idea or difficult to let go more than we can physically feel is because there's a psychological drive as well. It can feel scary to let go so deeply. It can feel like the body would just fall apart, just atomize. Seeing if we can find this part of us that's a little nervous about that prospect, letting go at that level. It might be quite subtle, it might not even be present at all. That's fine. Worst case scenario, we're simply letting go, exploring, relaxing. And if this hasn't caused the part of us that can sometimes be afraid, nervous, or anxious to arise, we can simply evoke that part, bring it up. Certainly remembering times when we were nervous to try or do something. It doesn't have to be a strong evocation. It can simply be a subtle awareness of this aspect of our experience. Hesitance, nervousness. want to reply to that part of us, reply because it's speaking in emotion in the body, simply reply with, of course. Of course. And the phrase is meant to convey our kind understanding. Of course, this part of us would be scared at times. Of course. Given its background, given its view of the world. Often fear and nervousness is experienced as unwanted or unpleasant. And so we ignore it, trying not to feel it, trying not to know what it feels like in the body. In this case, we're simply allowing those sensations to appear and treating them as natural because they are. Of course. Of course. Effectively, we're cultivating a friendship. Between ourselves and the part of us that can feel so isolated, so afraid of the world itself. If a different phrase feels supportive of this process, perhaps I see you, or I understand, or even just welcome. Welcome. Whatever will help create a field of friendliness. This part of us that feels afraid works so hard, on guard all throughout the day, trying to protect us. Even if it doesn't make sense, it still tries. So picking our phrase that will help this part of us feel understood rather than shunned. Of course. Of course. Choosing a phrase a stance, a tone of voice in the mind that allows this part to feel and to know what we're saying. We're not just saying it into the air. We're trying to get this part to feel our understanding, feel our curiosity, of course. Of course. Or I see you. Or welcome. And for a moment we can check in on how old this part feels. Do we remember this same nervous or fearful experience when we were young? When we were very young? So as we consider our kind phrase, our understanding phrase, understanding how long this part has been making this sacrifice. This fearful part doesn't want to feel afraid. It doesn't like the fear. But it still does it in order to warn and protect us. And of course, if we are experiencing any overwhelm, feeling free to make any adjustments in the body, to practice with the eyes open if we want, resting on a single point, or even to stop the meditation. Making any adjustments that allow this friendship to unfold. Friendship is a time-based medium, so just being with this part over time is all that's needed to cultivate this relationship. I see you. Welcome. Maybe even thank you. Thank you. And if some part of us is trying to get this fearful or nervous part to change or to be different, often some part of us just doesn't like that fear. We can ask that judging part to step aside, just asking it politely, understanding, welcoming it to Thank you for communicating. And do you mind if we just spend some time with this more nervous part for now? And sometimes our fear part or parts can feel right at the surface, kind of common nervousness that we feel throughout our day, and sometimes it can be very deep, primordial. A fear that something will go wrong at any time, a fear that can wake us up in the night, filling the body with adrenaline. So remembering that these parts of us are very, very young. They're like children. And of course their logic is childlike. They see danger all over. It's as though there's part of us that's scared of the thunder, doesn't know that that thunder is simply the world. So we're just here to offer understanding, of course. Of course. Tuning into this character, this person within us that's afraid. Noticing all the hard work it does. Appreciating that. And seeing if we can also recognize its character underneath all of that effort and fear and work. Often very vulnerable, soft. A tenderness that thinks it needs all of that fear. Of course. Of course. And taking a moment to let this part of us know that we'd like to come back. We'd like to be able to chat with it again sometime soon. Perhaps even to let it know that it can come chat with us anytime it wants. It doesn't need to take over the whole body, fill us with adrenaline. It can simply come and say hello. And until we can learn to welcome this part without rejecting it, it's going to need to take over, need to flood the body with fear. So just taking a moment to say thank you to this part. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, and eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point. It's not a screen, it's not text. Letting this part of us see through our eyes. It's very rare that the nervous or fearful part of us gets to have contact with the body, feel the body, see through our eyes, hear through our ears, unless there's a crisis and it feels it needs to take over. Just letting it know it's welcome. And in this way, letting this particular moment be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Now that, folks, is a good doggy. Good doggy. Yeah. Okay, folks, so what was that like? What happened? What do you like now? A very important part of meditation is actually saying what happened, because otherwise it'll just drift into another clump of memory. So this is the time where we jump in and do our Q&A. Oh, Chris put the thing for our Discord. Oh, Chris, if folks are going to jump on Discord real quick, we're using this other thing right now, which is this live stream chat. I'm going to put a new thing here for you. This is a new link. So if you want to chat, jump here. A little different. They're offering some other thingy doodle now. It's a different kind of room. Jump in there, and it's a little bit more like what's that app? Clubhouse. So folks, tell me, use that digital technology, break out those digits, let me know what that experience was like for you. See, the dog hears the food and is anxious. But then when she lays down, she gets the food, thus training her to be calm. So the trainers say. Okay. So feel free to write your response, reports what that was like. It will magnify your meditation experience, or you can jump over here on our Discord. One listener. Who's listening? Oh, I'm supposed to be in charge here. I'm not the listener. Wait, there's Chris. Great. Okay, so Chris, you can probably hear me live now, and I'm going to. This is such a clunky setup. Invite to speak. Okay, you've been invited to speak. So let me know when you're able. There you go.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's the sound quality on your end is lower than it was before for some reason.
Interesting. Okay, well, there we go. Let me check something, but go ahead. You can hear me, so let's just go from there. I'll look at settings, but for now, we'll go from there. Great. How you doing? How was that meditation?
It was pretty weird and transformative. At first, I identified the part that I don't know if I call it fear, but it's the part that wants like things to change from moment to moment. So I identified the need to like check the time or like move because I wasn't in like the perfect posture. So again, introduced that into the whole, and it was like really like freeing. But then other parts started popping up, and it was like the part that was like trying to think about what I was going to say in my report, like just now. And then another part jumped in that wanted to like make it like perfect and try to make the perfect explanation. And then something weird happened where it just like my mind went to like the explanation was in a bag, and it like, and I could like just let go of that bag, and suddenly the need for explaining myself or approval just completely vanished.
Nice. Yeah. And so from an IFS perspective, what we would say is that the part that like wanted to make it perfect, in a sense you said, hey, do you mind stepping aside? Maybe you didn't use these words, but that was the idea. Like, are you okay stepping aside? And that part was like, yeah, I'm cool, and just sort of drifted off. What's a good thing to notice is if there's a part that won't let go, it's like, no, I'm not, I have to find out what time it is. I have to, like, it just can't, it won't just step aside. We just switch the target to that part. So the target then becomes, instead of being like, oh, the part that's afraid, or the part that you were talking about, which is like, wants this to be perfect, wants it to go well, whatever. If something else really gets in the way, we just switch to that part, and we're like, hey, like, how you doing? Maybe we'll say goodbye to the part we were just talking to, or say, do you mind holding on for a minute? Talk to that part, ask it, hey, are you willing to step aside? Do you mind? If it's not, then we just work with it. We say welcome, we create that friendship. That's exactly what we do. So great work.
Yeah, so the question here is, again, this is my Western mind, like trying to have a goal. Is the goal to stay in like this self or this awareness again? Because some of these parts have like useful qualities to them.
Absolutely.
So,
and you know, without a mind and without all these parts, we just be an amoeba. We just be like, I'm floating in cool, insight territory, and we couldn't function. But we have all these different parts that can function and do things, etc. So they're wholesome, they're good, they're valuable. Part of what we want to do is that there's often the case that these parts are unaware of the kind awareness. They're unaware of this, overall ability of the mind to hold this kind of spacious awareness. So what we're doing is infusing everything with that quality. We're letting the emptiness of those parts soak in all of that goodness of the kind awareness, so that they're welcome. Because often what happens is a part feels separate, isolated, distinct from, and that's what trauma basically is a part of us that feels like it's broken off and shattered from the rest of the system. So what we're doing is we're introducing it to the system, we're bringing it into consciousness, we are giving it a role that it wants rather than one it feels like it has to have. That's really often an important part, is to say, this part is like always worried and nervous, and etc. And once we can really become friends with it, we can ask, like, do you want to do this? And usually, most of the time, parts do not want to do the thing that they've been asked to do for many, many years. So you say, well, what do you want to do? And I remember I have a part that is very judgmental, and it's like, this is stupid. You're stupid. This meditation's stupid. Everybody's stupid, and like not good enough, and like this could be better. And I talked to that part. It's like, that's really tiring, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's like constant, like everything. I have to judge all the time. And I asked it, what would it prefer to do? And it sort of took a little while, but it's like it would actually prefer to just make aesthetic judgments. Like, I like this is shiny, or this is beautiful because it's symmetrical. I like that. And it just wanted to be like creatively explore and like, oh, look at things that it liked. It didn't want to have to hold all of that judgment and have to actually manage the world. It's a lot of work. So I actively give that that task, and it's satisfied, so it doesn't need to judge people as much anymore. And then you start to turn to, like, why would it need to judge people? Well, because if it doesn't judge, then it's not safe. So you go a layer below and you say, well, what about that part that doesn't feel safe? And you repeat the process again. It's like it's sort of what we're doing today. It's like constantly like, oh, I don't know, I'm not safe. So you work with it, do the same process over again. But they can still have a great role even once they've been, they no longer have to do their burden. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I just have trouble identifying if this like very calm, very serene part of me is self, or if it's another part that I should work with.
Well, you can tell over. Oops, that light went down. You can tell over time, because you can tell if it prefers or not. That's like a very simple. Is there preference? Actual, the deepest part of our self, true self, we could call it true being, etc., doesn't prefer. It's just it welcomes whatever happens. There is something to be cautious of, though, which is what we can call like a self-like part, which is the part of the mind that can feel like it is in charge. The intellectual part often is like, oh, I get it. I get how this works. I'm supposed to do this, or, this is what a good meditation looks like. I've read, The Progress of Insight, and I know how this next section is supposed to be like this. And that's good for a time, but it's just not true being. It's not our true self.
Okay.
So just be aware of that and look for it, and look for the part. Basically, often it's like the part that understands. Awesome. Thanks so much for jumping in here. Let me jump in. And I don't know. I think you have to unspeak yourself. You have to pop out. Whatever you got to do. I believe it. I can mute you. Oh, move to audience. Damn. I didn't realize I could do that. Okay. Very, very easy. Okay, problem solved. Let's go to some reports here, some written reports. Thank you for joining us on Discord here, Christian. Here we go. Daniel says the following.
I felt the good, happy feeling by accepting that part and thanking it for doing what it thought was best for me.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a problem that when I start going deep, I feel like I stop breathing, even though I probably still am, but I overthink it and get distracted.
Yeah, so it's possible that when you're going deep and you feel like you're not breathing, that part of you that's concerned about that is trying to protect you. It's trying to say, oh, if you do this, it's going to be bad. You're not going to breathe. So rather than worrying about the breathing, I would treat that part of you as a part and say, oh, I see that you're concerned, then I'll stop breathing. That makes a lot of sense because you don't have a lot of data. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. We just hang out with that part. Just hang out with it, and eventually it's like, okay, and it'll probably chill out, and you say, okay, cool. And then you allow yourself to go deeper. But that's the general premise is we don't try to reject those parts. And often in meditation we can have this thing where we're like, oh no, the fear part, just get rid of it. And that's fine, except it then comes back. And it's going to be back after because we just blew past it. That's one of the things they talk about with the psychedelic journey stuff is you want to not just blast through all these protector parts. You want to work with them and then have them let go and have them feel comfortable with the ride, because then it's actually going to open up. So I mentioned in my second to most recent psychedelic journey, it was a large dose of psilocybin, and at some point some protector part within me was like, this is not happening, and like clamped it down and like shut the hallucination off. It was like going, it's like whoosh, and like I was sober at the peak of the this stuff. And it was crazy that it just stopped psychedelic medicine, but it did. And so without the permission of our protectors, we can't go to certain places. So we really want to get that permission. Okay, so thank you, Daniel. Scott Nesbitt says the following.
It was relieving to welcome and be kind to that fearful part.
Right.
That part is around more than I would like in my life, so I think being more kind to it would be helpful. It was pretty subtle during the meditation though, so I wonder what it would be like when it's more intense. I'll also notice whenever I pay attention to that part, there's sadness underneath, so I try to welcome the sadness as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the lovely meditation.
Great. Couple things. One is it's subtle during the meditation, and it's going to be what happens when it's more intense normally. Remember that unless we really acknowledge our parts, they have to scream at us to get our attention. So if we can notice them when they're subtle and get used to hanging out with them when they're subtle, get the lines of communication going, there's less of a need for them to like really, really panic. And when they do, it's often a much shorter line to be like, oh, you're panicking. I get it. I understand. And there's a friendship there. So they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I guess I am overreacting. So I found that to be true. Like I still, my mind will still wake me up with some fear. I had all sorts of, abuse stuff growing up. So some fear at night, it's like, what about the thing? And I'll think about something I forgot or whatever. And it's just this thing of being like, oh, of course you're scared. It makes sense. It's scary. It's nighttime. It was dark, and I'm just very kind to that part. And that part then is like, oh yeah, you're right. And right back to sleep, which is, that's a good sign that it's chilling out. That's one thing, is to try to get the lines of communication open. And then the other part was that you said that there's a sadness underneath. So remember, it would be good to get, and I think what you're doing is exactly right, and just make sure that that fear part is okay with you having contact and hanging out with that sadness, and it doesn't feel like you're just rejecting it in order to be with the sadness. What we did today comes from a pretty big revelation that came out of IFS therapy, which is that I was so surprised. Even though I know IFS, I know how it works, that fear part that comes up, I'm like, nah, fear, out of here. We don't want that. So it was just powerful to see that and to know that that's a part, and it's totally valid. There's nothing wrong with the part that's afraid. It's very good that Willow is being here just sleepy deepy and her ears are turned away. That's a good sign typically that she's not Enlightened Joe, namaste. Namaste to you. Namaste the fucking bed today. What's up? Welcome, Joe. I think this is your first time here. Joe, you may not know this, but we have a greeting for first timers. And it is a way to say hello. Hello to folks who are just joining us here for the very first time. Welcome, Enlightened Joe. How's your day going? I want to answer this question from Asbin Illustration, but first I want to say, day's going great. Wonderfully. I got a little puppy here hanging out. She hears the sound of food, so I'm not going to treat her at this moment. I'm going to wait till she's resting and sleepy again. That P.S. folks, so she was like all riley and crazy during the meditation. So right now she just like rested and put her head down because she's waiting. She thinks if she puts her head down, she's going to get food. See? She was like, I'll rest. And then she's like, where's the food? So I'm trying to train her to be not anxious. This is a video I watched from this trainer, is that when they're really not anxious, they'll really just like give up and stop thinking about the food. And so I'm waiting until she's really not thinking about the food. You can see her ears peeking and looking like where's that sound? Her ear is pointed right towards me. So she's like really paying attention to me. And I want her to just pay attention to nothing. I know that's a funny thing. Anyway, I think this stuff is really fascinating. Let's answer this question here from, I was going to say Al Jazeera. Asbin Illustration says the following.
I found that my most overpowering part is the one that watches the others and tries to pass itself off as the true self.
Yep.
I was trying to find a way to get past it, but I just now realized that I should talk to it like any other part.
Absolutely. Talk to it, respect it. Like one of the cool things that you can do in IFS is and if anyone doesn't know, it's internal family systems therapy. She's not that hungry. She's just trained to really pay attention to like movements. Like I can't even get the treat over there with her being relaxed because watch, I'll move my hand and she'll jump up. Yep. But it's the best you can do right now. So not multitasking well. The overpowering part. So exactly, and to respect that part and to know that part has a drive and it feels it needs to do these things that it needs to do. Often what it feels it needs to do is understand and get it and manage and do the meditation. I've got to do this meditation. That's how mine functions. So it's really helpful to talk to it and say like, hey, what if you didn't have to do this? What if you could just hang out and do whatever you wanted? And often parts are like, oh, that'd be great. It'd be wonderful. It's like, well, there is a possibility here and there's a way to get there. And often it's also helpful because that part, while it's hard for it to let go, it does understand that letting go might be beneficial, so you can actually reason with it pretty well often. Although what it'll do is like disappear and then come back and be like, I'm here, I'm back in control. So basically, you just take time and get to know it and know when it's sort of managing your experience. So folks, what else? Any other questions, quandaries, queries? Maurice has a question here. I also felt some shame. Thank you for saying, we talk about weird stuff, and it's very powerful to actually talk about, like, yeah, I felt some shame. Good for you. I also felt some shame and embarrassment along with the fear. Great. So we just don't talk about this stuff, and I think that in 10, 20 years, this is going to be like normal stuff. Like, oh yeah, there's some shame coming up in my chest over here, and like this is going to be a normal part of the conversation. And people are going to have critical advantages in business and life, etc., who can talk about this stuff really openly and talk about their own experience, because this stuff is driving our behavior anyway. It's already driving our behavior. So if we can manage it and work through it, that is a significant benefit to ourselves and to the world. So, okay, any other questions, reports, comments, curiosities, queries, or requests? Anyone want me to do something with the dog? It's funny right now, actually, the dog is, because of the camera that she's on, she looks bigger than she is. I think she looks bigger than she is, right? Because my hand is like not this bigger than my head. So let's see the dog in reality. Oops. This is actually the dog size. Hello. Hi. She's a teeny weeny. She's a sweetie. Hi. Hi, Willow. Hi. She would lick my face and nose and ears all day long if I just let her. Willow. Because she's a puppy, occasionally she'll take a bite. She'll be like, okay, down, Willow. Down? Good. Good down, Willow. Okay. So, folks, great to see you. It looks like there's no more questions, quandaries, etc. I'm going to jump off. Great, as always, to see you. Great to hang out with you. Okay. I do not know if there's a stream Friday. Okay, so this is what happens universally. I'm like, I want there to be a stream. I want to hang out with you guys. I want to talk. It's probably better that I take a day off, honestly. Oh, crud knuckles. There might not be a stream Monday because I'm meeting with a monk friend of mine Monday morning. Oh, geez Louise. Okay, so I'm going to try to do the stream Friday then. I'm going to try to do the stream Friday because there's probably not going to be one Monday. Okay, so that's it. And the light falls. The light is a $600 phone. Okay, folks, great to see you. Great to be here with you in this particular moment, right here, right now. Listen to this music. This is good groovy music, good time. So right now, notice whatever part is arising, but if it's that nervous part, thinking about your day, you've got to do all these things, tasks and things you got to accomplish, big things goals you want to cross off lists and things like that. You may or may not be nervous or afraid or that kind of thing, but if you are, or if any part is arising, just saying, of course, I see you. I see you. This is treating all parts of ourselves as nature, the part of us that maybe likes or hates this music. Part of us that enjoyed or hated this meditation. Enlightened Joe, great to see you. Thanks for coming. P.S. Consider potentially following anyone who hasn't followed so far. We are a lovely, fun community, lots of great folks, so love to be back here. We're usually here 3 days a week, meditating every single time. Advanced, fun meditations. So folks, as always, practice well, take care of each other, have fun, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Bye.